You know, over the last couple of decades, we've seen this incredible renaissance in psychedelic research. After being basically shut down for half a century, scientists are diving back in. And what they're finding is really promising, especially for some of the toughest mental health conditions out there, like treatment-resistant depression and addiction.
So, with all this buzz, you gotta ask, right? Have we finally found a miracle cure? Well, the reality is a little more complicated than that. Because for every patient who has this profound, life-changing breakthrough, there's another who, well, doesn't.
And this chart, wow, it really lays out the puzzle for us. Take a look. In one major study using ayahuasca for depression that just wouldn't quit, 57% of people responded. I mean, that's amazing, right? But then, look at the other side. A full 43% saw no real benefit. So that's the million-dollar question. Why? And that is the exact mystery we're going to dive into today. We're looking at a huge scientific review that tried to answer that very question. What is the secret ingredient that separates a breakthrough from a bust? So to get to the bottom of this, scientists basically went on this huge data hunt. They dug through 20 different studies covering a whole range of conditions, from addiction to OCD to anxiety. They were searching for that one common thread, that one factor that could tell them who was going to get better. Okay, so they started with the obvious stuff, right? The usual suspects. Maybe it's your age, your gender, or maybe it's just about how severe your condition is. But here's the thing. None of them were the magic bullet. Nope. The real answer was something else entirely.
All right, so if it's not your demographics and it's not your diagnosis, then what is it? What is the one thing that actually makes the biggest difference?
And it turns out, the answer wasn't something you could find in a blood test or on a census form. It was all about the mind. The most important factor was the quality of the psychedelic experience itself. And listen to this. This is straight from the researchers themselves. They said, the main predictive factor is the intensity of the acute psychedelic experience. Just let that sink in for a second. It means the more profound, the more intense the trip was for a person, the more likely they were to heal.
Okay, so when we say an intense experience, what are we actually talking about here? Well, in the research world, they call this a mystical type experience, and it's defined by a few key things: a powerful sense of being connected to everything, losing your normal sense of time and space, and this deep, profound feeling of meaning or spiritual importance. This is so important to get. The big takeaway is this: the drug itself is really just the key. It unlocks a door. But the healing, that happens based on the quality of what you experience in the room on the other side. Okay, so that naturally leads to the next big question, right? How on earth can a feeling, an experience, actually change your brain for the long haul? Well, scientists have a few really interesting ideas about what's going on under the hood. All right, hypothesis number one. It all starts with a very famous molecule in our brains, serotonin. So what happens is, these psychedelics, they're like a perfect key for a very specific lock in your brain, a serotonin receptor called 5-HT2A. They activate it powerfully. And get this, the more they activate it, the more intense the person's experience becomes. And that big rush of activation is what scientists think helps kind of reboot the emotional circuits that have gotten stuck. Okay, now for hypothesis number two. This one zooms out from a single receptor to look at the whole brain network. Think of it as a total system reboot. So here's the idea. We all have this brain network called the default mode network. It's tied to our ego, our sense of self, and our routine ways of thinking. In something like depression, that network gets really rigid. Imagine deep ski tracks in the snow. You just keep going down the same paths. What psychedelics seem to do is temporarily flatten that network, like a fresh snowfall covering all the old tracks. Then, as your brain comes back online, it can carve out new, healthier, more flexible pathways. And this is where you see a massive difference between this and traditional antidepressants. A lot of standard meds, they kind of work by turning down the volume on your emotions, sometimes leading to that blunted feeling. Psychedelics, they seem to do the exact opposite. They help people reconnect with their emotions and actually process them instead of just pushing them down. So, let's connect the dots here. If the experience is the medicine, then you can't just hand someone a pill and say, good luck. You have to create the right conditions for a healing experience to happen. And this is where the therapy part is absolutely crucial. You see, a healing experience isn't just random luck. It's carefully built. It's all about what therapists call set and setting.
That means a ton of prep work beforehand to build trust. It means the session itself happens in a safe, comfy room with trained therapists and even curated music. And then, afterward, and this is so important, there are integration sessions to help make sense of it all and turn those insights into real change. And the scientists behind this review, they couldn't be clearer about this. They said the environment plays a primordial role. In other words, the room, the music, the therapist, that's not just extra fluff. It's part of the medicine itself.
So, if you remember one thing, let it be this. The drug opens the door. It creates this incredible opportunity for change, but it's the therapy that walks you through that door and helps you turn those insights into real, lasting healing.
And that leaves us with a really profound question as we look to the future of mental health. If the experience is the medicine, it changes everything. The challenge isn't just about finding the right drug anymore. It's about how we design therapies that can reliably and safely cultivate these profound, life-changing experiences.